Hey crew, happy to be here with you today. Eric King from Umbarger Show Feeds. Today we're going to cover the advantages of the Umbarger Show Feeds and a little bit of the history behind Umbarger Show Feeds and where it's been and where it has begun. This will also help cover your history lesson as many of you are learning from home and different ways of technology and things like that today. I assure you there will not be a test at the end of this. So a little bit on the history of Umbarger Show Feeds. It was started in 1939 by Roy Umbarger. He essentially started a local country feed mill as being asked by many bankers and many businessmen in town that they needed a local place to trade their grain, bring their grain in and get mixes for their cattle, sheep, hogs, goats, and horses as well. So this mill still resides today in hometown Bargersville, Indiana, which is just like I said, south of Indianapolis. We are still operating out of that same mill that we did today. Now there has been some changes, and obviously there are some major changes coming as we build our new state-of-the-art facility located in Franklin, Indiana, which we are very excited to hopefully get into this fall. But we will discuss more of that as we come in further episodes. So what makes Umbarger different than the rest? What has Umbarger done to differentiate themselves from the competition? First things first, Umbarger is a show feed only company. What does that mean? That means every bag of feed that comes out of that mill is designed and prepared for a show animal, whether it's a pig, a lamb, a goat, a steer, or even the horses. Because that is where our show feed started, is in the horse industry, honestly. Marty Umbarger and his brother Tom, which were third generation Umbargers, set out 20-30 years ago to essentially make high-end horse feed for the horse tracks around Indianapolis. They did this. This was a great job. What was their key advantage though? Their key advantage was steam flake grains. They went out, did the research, brought back the steam flaker. What is the steam flaker, you may ask? Steam flaker is essentially passing 180-degree steam directly through the grains. Okay? Corn, oats, and barley. All three of these grains we steam flake every day to make fresh quality feeds. So what does the steam flaking process do and what does it entail? Steam flaking, like I said, passes 180-degree steam directly through the grain as it passes down a column through a column from the top to the bottom. What does this steam do? It essentially moistens the outer shell of that grain. Say we take a piece of corn, it moistens the outer shell of that corn, softens it up, then we pass it across a set of rollers. Okay, the rollers crimp this down and make it a flat, like pancake looking structure. It cracks that outer shell, makes it very soft and moist. Then in turn it passes across a drying table. The drying table then dries the grain back down so we can put it into a bag and bring it to you as a customer, and it can be utilized and stored for a month to several months until you get to use it yourself. Okay, most steam flaking processes essentially happen out in feed yards and grain yards where they're feeding various volumes of cattle, and they essentially use that grain very fast. Within 6 to 8 hours it's being fed. So there isn't an exact science behind this steam flaking process. We have one guy that is his sole job to steam flake grains every day, 5 days a week. We essentially flake the grains that we are going to utilize in your rations. This helps keep it fresh, it helps keep it palatable as well. So the steam flaking process leads to more palatable feeds. What does that mean? Palatable feeds mean feeds that animals want to eat. If your animal doesn't want to eat the feed that you offer, there is no sense in obviously feeding it, because they are not going to gain, they're not going to grow, they're not going to develop as we ask them to. So you have to first feed a feed that is very palatable. Steam flaking process does this. Makes it very moist, makes it very soft for them to eat. They can utilize it and get more out of their grain. Okay, so that goes to our second point, utilization and efficiency. Animals become way more efficient with steam flake grains. They essentially get more energy out of that grain. The world's strongest man can't take a piece of kernel of corn and crack it in half by itself. Okay, we have to use machines and mechanizations to either crack that or crimp that grain, and essentially that is what we were doing in the steam flaking process. Okay, so when that steam flake corn goes into the animal's digestive system, it essentially cracks open very easily, and there can be more bacteria and more enzymes, and it can be more utilized and attacked faster. Okay, that is less energy that the animal has to expel to digest that grain. The energy is more available for the animal to put into gains, growing, efficiency, and essentially filling up their bucket of nutrient use, which we'll talk about more in further episodes as well. Okay, so back to the steam flaking process. Let's talk about passage. Okay, one of the easiest products to look at in passage is corn. Okay, we generally steam flake all of our corn that you're going to see in all of our rations, other than cracking some of our corn that we utilize in some of our creep rations that we're going to talk about here in a little bit as well. Okay, but corn, as we look at that and relate it to passability, that's what comes from the front end to the back end without being utilized at all. It goes straight through the animal. No questions asked. You're just going to see it out there in the manure. Okay, so what is that number? On whole shelled corn, that number is 16%. So 16% of that corn is coming straight through the animal, passing right through. We're not getting any benefit out of any of it. Okay, cracked corn drops us down to 10 to 12%. So we're picking up a little bit more usability. Again, that corn is still hard. That outer shell is still hard. The animal has to expend a lot of energy to digest that product. Okay, they don't have to. It has to sit there for a little while until they can use it up. What does steam flake corn drop us down to? It drops us down to 2%. 2% of that corn passes straight through. So our usability goes way up. So we're getting more efficient animals. We have more efficient grains. For better gains, better quality animal. So essentially you get to feed less feed, but get the same amount of gain out of less feed. Another thing we do at Umbarger Show Feeds is clean quality grains. We use a 1950s grain cleaner every day to clean our grains. We take out the rocks, we take out the corn cobs, we take out the unwanted fines that can lead to animals going off of feed, things like that. We clean those grains so that we can essentially steam flake the best quality grains to go into the feeds that you're going to see in every bag that you're going to buy of Umbarger Show Feeds. This essentially all leads, like I said, back down to palatability, efficiency, digestibility. Those all lead to essentially what's behind your show feed. As our steam flaking process continues, our grains are now moved and transferred into holding tanks that will allow them to be used in the feed making process. As our mill operators determine what feeds need to be made for the day, as they are all made fresh every day for our dealers, as those orders come in and as those orders go out. Another key advantage in Umbarger Show Feeds is our dealers place their orders and we make those feeds as they come in. We don't floor stock feeds all the time. Essentially, we want to keep that feed as fresh as possible, coming to you as the customer and our dealers across the nation. We sell feed in over 35 states and we want the feed to be as fresh as possible for you, the end user, at all times. Let's get into talking a little bit about the feeds. Specifically the lamb feeds, as we're going to talk to our lamb customers in these episodes. So as we move into the lamb feeds, we're going to talk this time of year about three main feeds. We're going to talk about Lamb 19, we're going to talk about Lamb 17 with barley, and we're going to talk about Lamb 16 high energy, and what makes a difference in the advantages and why we would utilize which feeds. As we move forward, we're going to discuss the Umbarger Show Feeds lineup with you. If you would like to follow along, we invite you to have, if you have your 2020 product guide, follow along with us. You can make notes in that. If you do not have the Umbarger 2020 product guide, it can be found at our website, www.umbargerandsons.com. Please click on the link to the product guide and you can follow along right there on your computer. Okay, crew, we're going to discuss our lamb feeds here for a minute. We've got three main rations that we'll be utilizing all season to get your lambs from start to finish to accomplish your goals through the growing season. The three feeds that we're going to discuss: Lamb 19, Lamb 17 with barley, and Lamb 16 high energy. The Lamb 19 ration offers you a lot of key advantages to help you build and develop your muscle mass and grow throughout the season. The Lamb 19 is a 19% protein, 3% fat, 8% fiber ration that can be utilized from start to finish. Lamb 19 ration does a great job of growing those lambs through the growing season without laying down too much condition. Lamb 19 would be your choice for those lambs, especially those easy keeping breeds that tend to lay down too much cover too quickly and too early. Like I said, Lamb 19 can be utilized all season and would be utilized with a less strenuous exercise program. Our next ration that we would like to discuss would be Lamb 17 with barley. The key advantage with this ration is the addition of barley. Barley lays down a cooler a smoother, whiter, firmer finish, and also burns internally cooler through the hot summer months. Barley is like laying down or putting a glove on your hand. It will lay a perfect ring right around your fingers. If your finger was the muscle, it would lay a perfect smooth ring right around our fingers, versus adding pockets of fat and blotches and soft fat like corn tends to do. Why is this important? This is tremendously important as we handle those sheep late in the season, and especially as we get to our fairs and our shows. When the judge comes to handle your lamb, what does he do? He handles the top rack of that lamb. He wants a smooth, firm finish from front to back. We don't want too much fat, but we want just enough, and we want it to be smooth and firm to the touch. Barley will do that for us. Barley also burns internally cooler through the hot summer months, so your lambs continue to want to eat and want to grow. Lamb 17 with barley can also be utilized all season if necessary. We can go to it early if we need to lay some fat down on some lambs, earlier if we are going to hit the jackpot season, which we don't know if it will start, but one day we will have shows again. So always have Lamb 17 in your back pocket. As we prepare for those fairs and our shows, minimally the last 45 to 60 days we would like to see you on Lamb 17 with barley. This will help that finish that lamb, smooth out the touch, and put the best handle we can on those lambs and get us ready for our shows. Now if we're trying to play catch up and we need to catch up with these lambs and catch up on some condition, Lamb 16 high energy is where we'll be looking at. Lamb 16 is our highest energy feed that we have, utilizing a 16% protein, 5% fat, and 5% fiber. This will lay down a bunch of condition in a hurry. It will also lay down condition so forth on the outside part of the skeleton. This we can see faster. This we're going to see on the ribs and on the back and things like that we're going to see faster. The multiple fat sources in the Lamb 16 is going to allow us to do this. We can use Lamb 16 straight, or we can mix it with our other two rations if we need to incorporate some more fat into our ration. Also understand that all of our feeds are medicated, or these three feeds that we just discussed are medicated with Bovatec. Bovatec is in there to help us with coccidiosis prevention. Understand that all animals have coccidiosis. It's whether they are stressed enough to show clinical signs of coccidiosis, which are loose stools and a slight fever in some cases. Understand that these rations are medicated with Bovatec to help keep those symptoms at bay and help keep your lambs on feed. Also, we have ammonium chloride in all of our feeds. Ammonium chloride is to help with urinary caliculi, which is also kidney stones. Kidney stones present themselves upon stress levels, or upon times of stress, which generally in turn is a time when you're working your lambs or a time when you're hauling your lambs, going to a show or going to a fair. Generally they show up 3 to 4 days after they've been stressed and sometimes result in the lamb passing. So at Umbarger Show Feeds, we always mix ammonium chloride in these feeds to the proper level to help you ensure that we do not have urinary caliculi in your show lambs. Also, another advantage to the Umbarger Show Feed lineup, utilizing in all the feeds, we use Amifirm. Amifirm is a direct fed microbial that feeds the good bugs in the stomach and takes out the bad. Plain and simple, feeds the good, takes out the bad. Also, another product that we incorporate in all of our show feeds in the sheep feeds is Omnigen. Omnigen is a product to help with the immune system and help keep the animals healthy and eating and going in times of stress. At Umbarger Show Feeds, we're always here to help you with your feed and technical feeding questions throughout the growing season. One question that we will always defer is the questions of health when it comes to your animals. We always defer these questions to your local veterinarian. I always suggest you consult with your local veterinarian before you have an issue. Make them aware of what you have on the farm or on your place, how many animals, and what they are dealing with. At this time, you can help create a vaccination schedule, a worming protocol, or just a health check. This helps establish the vet-client relationship that you need to have with your local veterinarian. It's a great time to do that early in the season rather than when you have a problem. As we move forward, there's a few things that we would like to discuss as well as it relates to the Umbarger program, and it gets into top dresses. Top dresses aren't always needed. Sometimes we need top dresses, but also we need to know what we need a top dress for. Several times we've had customers come up to us at trade shows or events and say, I need a top dress. Well, we ask them, what do you need a top dress to do? What do you want your top dress to do? Well, this guy's feeding out of this bucket and this guy's feeding out of this bucket. I believe that I need to feed something out of a bucket. Well, we go through the scenario. Do you need a top dress for joint health? Do you need mineral supplementation? Do you need immune support? Do you need gut health? What do you need with your top dress? And again, he would say, I just need something to help me out. I just need a top dress. So after going through several key advantages and things like that, he understood that he just needed to feed his lambs throughout the growing season. As he got later into the growing season, then he can incorporate some top dresses as he needed be. So make sure you do your homework and understand what you need and when you need it, and when these top dresses can be utilized. One of the top dresses that we would like to highlight today is Loaded. Loaded is a 17% fat textured top dress that we can utilize throughout the growing season. One of the great advantages of Loaded is that it is a textured top dress. So it mixes in with our feeds and it incorporates very well. The animals cannot sort it out and they can't leave it behind. It mixes in with our steam flake grains and our quality textured feeds at all times, so the animals pick it up and oftentimes don't even know it's even there. Typical feeding rates on Loaded can be found, but are a 1/4 pound to 3/4 of a pound a day per lamb, depending on the individual's needs. Loaded is made up of bypass proteins and multiple fat sources. Loaded comes in a 40-pound bag. Another product I would like to discuss is Apex. Apex is a 25% multiple fiber source product made up mainly of dried beet pulp and citrus pulp. Apex goes in there and allows some expansion. Apex typically expands to 3 times its pelleted size when wet, essentially when consumed by the animal. Apex generally settles in a lamb down to that lower third and lower flank, giving you that fuller, softer look that is desired in today's show ring. Apex also comes in a 40-pound bag. There are many other top dress advantages that Umbarger can offer you. But remember to ask yourself, what do you need? Do you need mineral supplementation? Do you need joint care? Do you need gut health? Do you need immune support systems? Do you need hair care? Do you need a fat burning product? Do you need a fat source to add more fat, such as Loaded as well? Make sure you ask yourself and answer those questions and do some research before you buy a bucket, before you buy a bag, before you buy a bottle. Make sure we take our time and do our homework, and it'll help you in the end. As we near the end of this segment of Feeding with Umbarger, make sure you understand that we are always here for you in any way possible. Whether it's technical feeding questions, whether it's evaluation of your market lambs or your market projects, in any way, we are always here for you in many, many ways. We're a phone call away, a text message away, an email away, a Facebook message away. And oh, by the way, we also have an app called the Feed Scoop that will help you out in any way. You can send us pictures, you can send us videos of your animals that we will respond directly to you at any time with your recommendations and your questions on your particular lambs. You can also track your weights, you can also track your medications and feed records in the Feed Scoop app. But understand, we are always here for you to help you with your project at any time. Please take this time to visit our website, umbargerandsons.com. Here you can find a lot of useful information, including our 2020 product guide, winner's tools, links to our feed, and also links to those top dress companies that we deal with and that we offer. Also take time, our Facebook page is always up to date with a lot of information, videos, winners, and events going on in the area, because there will be events again very, very soon. Everyone, please stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you soon. I'm Eric King from Umbarger Show Feeds. Thank you.